Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Doubleheader. I'm your host, Amir Daniels, and this is Keenan Costain. The purpose of our podcast is to share two NFL stories for the price of one. On our first episode, it's going to feature Stephen A. Smith, Mel Kiper, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Indianapolis Colts. So, without further ado, on to our feature presentation. So, all right, Keenan, we finally made it after delays and technology and what have you. But how you feeling
Yeah,
today, man?
I'm very happy to be here. Very happy to be trying this out with you. This is something new for the both of us, the two of us. Well, of course, I've done some podcasting in the past before, but never with another colleague. But I'm really happy to be talking NFL with you. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it.
Well, I agree with that. So to start things off, have you ever read one of these before, Keenan?
I have not, unfortunately, but I've done some research a little bit, and boy, it's been a interesting, interesting fact in there for sure. I can tell. So,
Well, it does have a lot of interesting facts, and the guy you saw on the front cover, he's gonna be a part of our first episode. Mel Kiper Jr. versus Bill Tobin, 1994. Here we go. So, what do you know about Bill Tobin and Mel Kiper, Keenan?
I unfortunately don't know much about Bill Tobin, but Mel Kiper didn't he used to work for ESPN?
Oh yeah, yep. He's been with ESPN for now 40 years. Can you believe that?
Wow, so since 1984, if you can believe that, so about 40 years now, like you said. So.
Yep. In fact, he used to have a job with the Colts, who by 1994, well, that when they were in Baltimore, but by the time the 1990s rolled around, they were in Indianapolis, but they hadn't had much success. Which brings us to 1993. All right. So, Indianapolis Colts. Here's our first guys: Jeff George and Jack Trudeau. Something doesn't look right here, Keenan.
Hmm, interesting to know. Uh, um, I'm very intrigued of what these guys do with the story.
Well, let's pull back the curtain and see how they did in 1993. Oh, 3,518 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 4 wins. And as a result, the Colts only scored 189 points, which was last place in the NFL. So as a result, these two guys were sent packing, and they were replaced by this guy, Jim Harbaugh. That name sounds familiar.
It does sound familiar. Jim Harbaugh. Hmm.
Is he that guy who was drafted to lead Michigan Wolverines to the championship? Yeah, it's that
Yeah,
same guy.
yeah, that's right. That's right. The same guy, Michigan Wolverines for sure.
And based by these numbers here, drafted 26th overall by the Bears in 1987 out of Michigan. We played 7 years in Windy City, going 35 and 30 as a starter, and passed 11,000 yards, 11,567 yards, excuse me, 50 touchdowns, 50 interceptions, and a 77.8 passer rating. And his last year in Windy City was okay. 7 wins, 15 starts, but only threw 7 touchdowns and 8 interceptions and passed for 2,002 yards. But that's the guy who's going to be replacing these two to help rejuvenate the Colts offense. He's not alone because, hey, they got these guys, Don Mikowski and Brownie Nagel. Have you heard of these two, Keenan?
I have not. I have not heard of these two, but Jim Harbaugh. Excuse me, I'm butchering his name right now, but that's the only guy I heard of, unfortunately. But
Well, Don Mikowski, he's been in the NFL for a while, but made a Pro Bowl with the Packers a few years prior to this, but his 93 season, he was relegated to the sideline because these two guys right here were the stars of the show. Oops, oops. Go back. Who? Stop. Anywho, so yeah. So he was on the roster, the Colts roster, whereas Nagel, he was spending the 93 season with the Jets. Unfortunately, these guys only combined for 18 completions and 30 pass attempts for 176 yards, no scores, and 2 interceptions, mostly in relief efforts. So, yeah, the quarterback situation in Indianapolis, it hasn't really improved. But then and also these guys are they've been around for a while. I mean, around since the late 80s. So getting up there in age. But hey, that's coming up. So that gives you a chance to drop the quarterback. Let's see, according to this guy right here, Mel Kiper. Yep, according to him, he says the Colts need to draft one of these quarterbacks in this year's draft. Trent Dilfer and Heath Schuler. Trent out of Fresno, Heath out of Tennessee. But this is where Tobin enters the picture, because he's the one running the show in Indianapolis, and he replaced Jim Irsay as their GM, and also brought on Jim Harbaugh from Chicago, where he used to be their GM from '87 to '93. And with that being said, according to Mr. Tobin, I'm running the show here in Indianapolis, not some guy at a network. And that was in April 21st of 1994, so actually April 19th, so 5 days before the draft. He went to this Indianapolis Star and saying, "Hey, here's who they need to pick. Otherwise, it's right for some criticism." So with that being said, let's move on. Oh, and by the way, Colts had 2 picks in the first round. So hey, maybe they can draft both or one of them. You just never know. So, got any predictions, Keenan?
Possibly a quarterback, in my opinion, if you're looking at, you know, top round picks and the draft. I don't know much about the 1994 draft, so this should be interesting for me to learn and for people who are listening right now and who are watching. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for sure.
Well, eyes and heels peeled for sure. Definitely fits. So now let's move on to Saturday, April 24th, 1984, the Marriott Marquis in New York City, New York. And with the second choice in the 1994 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Marshall Faulk, running back out of San Diego State. And that's an interesting pick.
With the second pick, a Marshall Falk. Running back? Amir, like, how did this turn out to be?
Well, I want to ask these 3 guys, Mr. Rodney Pulliver, Anthony Johnson, Roosevelt Potts, who combined for 1,192 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 80.5 yards per game, which ranked 28th. And Roosevelt Potts led the Colts in rushing, but no touchdowns. So then again, the Colts offense didn't score a lot of points, so you're not going to get a lot of production on your running game.
Wow.
That, yeah. Yep. So they were able to improve their offense, but Mel Kiper doesn't agree. As he strongly disagrees with his pick. The Colts have to come out of this draft with a quarterback. Well, hold on there,
Yeah.
Mel. They have 2 selections in the draft in the first round. And when you know it, they'll be back on the clock in 3 selections. So let's see what happens.
All right. Here we go.
Dun, 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 dun. With the 5th choice in the 1994 draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Trev Alberts, linebacker out of Nebraska. Ooh.
Okay. Not a bad pick per se. Not a bad pick. You know.
Uh,
I got, oh,
yeah, it's all
go
right.
ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a bit different from my end. Uh, so, well, and the pick makes sense because look at these defensive rankings right here for the Colts in 1993.
Okay. 378 allowed. 27th. Okay. 5,638 total yards. 42 touchdowns. 21 takeaways. Pretty much you're looking at maybe probably the low mid tier to possibly bottom of the league. If you're really crunching those numbers down.
Well, back in '93, there was 2018 teams in the NFL, so not to the 13 we have now. But either way, yeah, the Colts defense, just their offense was horrible. And so you would address your offense and your defense, but gonna this guy on the left, I mean the right, he is not satisfied with this man's selections, which led to this. Oops, why did this? Either way, why did this came out rather small? Why did this happen? Ah, here we go. So, typical quote move. Here's a team that needed a franchise quarterback to pass up Trent Dilfer when all you have is Jim Harbaugh. Give me a break. That's why the Colts are picking second every year in the draft, not battling for the Super Bowl at other clubs in the National Football League. And I want you to remember the word Super Bowl. So that's going to play key down the road. So, yeah, I mean, now he's not happy the Colts passed up on Trent Dilfer in the draft. He told him a few days prior to the Indianapolis Star they need to come out as just draft with the quarterback. But if I remember correctly, Bill Tobin said, I'm the one running the show around here. So, of course, he heard these comments, and a few hours later, when he's being interviewed by Chris Mortensen, and now the late Chris Mortensen, live in Indianapolis, here's what he had to say. Who in the hell is Mel Kiper anyway? Here's a guy that criticizes everybody, who they should take. He's got the answer to who you should take and who you shouldn't take. In my knowledge of him, he's never put on a job trap. He's never been a coach, never been a scout or administrator. And all of a sudden, he's in our papers 2 days ago telling us who we have to take. We don't have to take anybody that Mel Kiper says we have to take. And he proved it that and he's right.
Right. And Amir, I can't see the PowerPoint.
Okay,
I
that's not
can't see
good.
the PowerPoint.
Oh boy. Oh, excuse us for the technical difficulties, folks. So yeah. Anywho, so here we go. So Colts make their selections. Bill Tobin's feeling good about himself, but Mel Kiper, the man, and ESPN has something to say. All right, Mel, here's the floor. A typical Colt move. Here's a team that needed a franchise quarterback. Pass up a Trent Dilfer when all you have is Jim Harbaugh. Give me a break. That's why the Colts are picking second every year in the draft, not battling for the Super Bowl or other clubs in the National Football League. Whoa, that is hot. That thing's getting heated up in the Marquise, Keenan.
Wow. Definitely. There's definitely some strong words coming from from a guy at a network or what have you.
Yeah. And also, I want to remember the word Super Bowl, folks. That's going to play a factor down the road. So, that being said, Mr. Tobin got wind of that. And, he had some words to say about Mr. Kiper. All right, Bill. Wow. All right, let's see what you got. Floor's yours, sir. Who in the hell is Mel Kiper anyway? He's a guy that criticizes everybody, who they should take. You got the answer to who you should take and who you shouldn't take. In my knowledge of him, he's never put on the jockstrap, never been a coach, scout, or administrator. And all of a sudden, he's an expert. He's in our papers 2 days ago telling us who we have to take. We don't have to take anybody that Mel Kiper says we have to take. And and by speaking to Chris Mortensen live in Indianapolis moments later. But long story short, yeah, he's given the two guys they just picked, running back and linebacker. Now one of them pick the quarterback. Well, Bill told him say he's running the show and not some guy in a network. So that being said, Bill, well said. And he did. But now we got to get to the regular season and beyond. 94 regular season. Now you gotta put everything together. So any predictions for our draft picks, Keenan?
Um, Definitely there's gonna be since they didn't draft a quarterback, they probably gonna have low numbers per se. That's the only prediction I have so far.
Well, I will. I'm the quarterback situation. It's going to be a battle in training camp, but I think Don might get the nod, given he's been with the team longer, and Jim might take over midseason. As for Marshall, I know he's going to be the starter opening day. Same with Trevor Alberts. I won't say he'll make a Pro Bowl or All Pro first year, but I expect him to start at least 12 games. So that being said, and let's see what happens. All right, Mr. Falk, you're up. Oh, what do we have here? Trip to Honolulu, Keenan, for Mr. Falk.
Wow, 1,282 yards and 11 touchdowns as a rookie. As a rookie, that's really good.
Yeah, and it gets better from here because in the Pro Bowl, he ran for a rookie record or Pro Bowl rushing record, 180 yards. You know, keep in mind, as a rookie. But the athletes
Yeah,
don't stop there. He's going to make three more Pro Bowls and three all pros, and his third all time in as a Colts leading rusher, 5,350 yards, and has 12,279 overall. He played 11 seasons in the NFL, and oh yeah, Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2011. So he's got a bust in Canton. Wow, I'd say this Mark Falk guy. Let's get Bill Tobin around the plus. He did. He nailed
yeah,
this
yeah.
pick.
Let's do that. Yeah.
All right. So what about say the quarterback? How things turn out for him?
I don't know.
Let's.
Let's see. Let's see. And the survey says,
All right. So your 94 season. Yeah, not. Yeah, 6 touchdowns, 9 picks, and 9 starts. Yeah, that's sure numbers. But then again, spending time with these two guys, Mr. Mikowski and Nagel. Yeah, Colts improved in their win total, eight wins. All right, so let's see what happened in the following season. Oh, okay. See you doing that, Jim. So 95 season, that means it went good. And indeed it did. So, okay, yes. What are these numbers, Keenan?
well, I see 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions for him, for Mr.
Mm.
Craig. So pretty good. Yeah, I'll take those.
Well, for Mr. Harbaugh, he took over
Excuse
Craig Erickson, who they picked up from
Oh,
Tampa in between 94 and
oh,
95.
excuse me, Mr. Jim. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's all right. And yeah, and led the league with a 100.7 quarterback rating. Keep in mind, this is the 90s, so we have like Troy Aikman, Brett Favre, Steve Young, Warren Moon, and it's this guy who leads the NFL in passer rating. And not only that, leads the Colts to the playoffs for the first time in 8 seasons and their first playoff victory since moving to Indianapolis on the road. It's a Chargers team that was in the Super Bowl the year prior, and at Kansas City in frigid temperatures. I mean, how
Wow.
about that? Is
That's really impressive. Everybody knows this, and it's hard to complete or compete in those temperatures for sure. And when it comes to big games like that, you just gotta be on top of your game
and it's hard to win on the road in the playoffs. Period. Let alone 2 weeks in a row.
for sure. Yeah, good point.
Yep. And while his 95 season did come to a end the following week in Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship game, look what we have here. He selected to the Pro Bowl and won NFL Comeback Player of the Year honors. All right, things are looking up for Jim. Encore presentation, anybody?
Let's just see what happens from here. I'm really intrigued. What happens? So encore presentation it is.
All right, let's see. 1996. How things go for you, Mr. Narball? Uh-oh. You're getting sacked by
Ooh.
someone from Pittsburgh, so that means you met Pittsburgh again, and you did. Okay, except this game wasn't even close. You got obliterated in the wild card round, 42-14. And yeah, your numbers in 94, 96. I mean, okay, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, won 7 games, but fortunately, that playoff loss against at Pittsburgh was the beginning of the end because 97, yeah, he only won 2 games, 11 starts, and the Colts said, sorry, but we're going to move in a different direction. Ended up selecting a guy by the name of Peyton Manning, who was, oh yeah, happy birthday, sir. It's March 24th. As for, I know you've done some, you want to do some big things in the NFL. Yeah. So what about you, Mr. Harbaugh? How did things turn out? Hmm. You got some different uniforms on here. So
Hmm.
there, Keenan?
Yep, I'm still here. Yeah, but
Okay.
just looking at these pictures, and yeah, I see some familiar colors in those pictures, folks. Amir, care to explain?
Yeah. Well, here it is. So between 98 and 2001, Jim would seal up for 3 different teams, the Ravens, the Chargers, and the Panthers. And for retiring after spending 1 year in Carolina. And yeah, I only won a total of 11 games in 4 seasons with these clubs. So at the end of the 2001 season, Jim hung it up, went into coaching, which I think everyone knows is familiar with that story. And his final career numbers as a pro quarterback: 66 wins, 74 losses, 129 touchdown passes, 170 interceptions, and a 77.6 passer rating. And yeah, but yeah, got to Rocky Start in Indianapolis, reached his apex in 95, came back down to earth in 96, and then 97 fell out, or bottom fell in 1997, and it was journeyman stash from the rest of the way. So that begs the question: what happened to the other guy in Indianapolis, Mr. Trev Alberts?
Where is Mr. Trev nowadays?
All right, well, Trev, all right, so you wearing a Colts uniform, but yeah, you didn't produce much. Three
Ooh.
seasons, 4 sacks, a pick, played in 29 games, started 7, none of which came in the playoffs. And yeah, you got hit by the injury bug, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're listening to this audio version, folks, this is not a pretty picture.
Nope. And you think it doesn't get much better from here on out, Colts, because while you hit on Marshall Falk, look at the rest of these numbers on your right, Keenan. Hey.
Ooh, I see a few bullet points that don't look promising in my opinion.
No, I mean, 2 of these guys only played 2 years in it, or excuse me, 3 of these guys didn't even make it to their third season in the NFL. They were out of that by the 96 season. 4 guys. And then as for the two, Bradford and Lamont, well, you made it to the 98th season, but didn't really produce much. Only started a grand total of 8 games in a Colts uniform and didn't score a lot of touchdowns, all of them coming from Lamont, who finished his career with the Detroit Lions, who by that point had learned some front office changes. Oh, hey, you're not alone, Lions, because Colts did some cleaning house in the front office too. Mr. Tobin, what's yeah, we didn't forget about you, sir. What's been cooking? All right. He says still with the Colts or not, according to that Red X. Oh, I know why. Yeah, he fell in favor with the front office after the 96 season, so they said, you're it. So they sent you packing. But
Yeah.
it's been the next 5 years out of football before you joined the Detroit Lions in 2001, serving as their director of player personnel. He held for 2 years because I heard the Lions didn't do so well during that stretch. But not to worry, you're still with the NFL and you're with the Bengals as serving as their personal executive and scouting consultant. Excuse me for that typo there. But then what it's on there twice, but either way, still with the NFL and almost had a Super Bowl ring not too long ago, but came out short. All right, so Tobin, okay, Harbaugh, okay, had to move up and down. Trev didn't work out. Marshall worked out. What about that guy, that Mr. Mel Kiper? Where you? Where'd you go, sir? Oh, there you are. You're still at ESPN, and what do you know? You're still covering the draft every April. Okay.
Oh, how about that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was wondering about Mel Kiper. I was in my pre-prediction before we started this presentation. I was on the right track. Yeah. So
Yeah, and speaking on the right track or lack thereof, what about those two quarterbacks, Trent and Heath? Well, judging by these pictures, and given what we just saw, they didn't wear the horseshoe, but they went to Trent went to Tampa, and he went to the nation's capital. And oh yeah, Mr. Kuiper said you're going to be capable of leading a team to a Super Bowl. Trent, as for you, Schuler, you're going to be the a apparent offensive player by your third or fourth year in the NFL. Okay. I mean, then again, you get drafted real high, you're going to need to make a big impact on offense and win a Super Bowl ring. So let's start with Mr. Trent Dilfer. Okay. Yeah, something don't look right here. It's Trent. You're getting sacked, and you don't look too happy about it. Oh, that's why. First years didn't work out.
mhm.
Yeah, those are not pretty numbers, Keenan.
No, definitely not. 43 interceptions, 17 touchdowns. I know I'm saying that wrong, but excuse me, 17 touchdowns, 43 interceptions, and only 13 wins in a span of 3 years. So,
Yeah, that
oh,
looks like they're gonna run you out of town, right, Trent? What do we have here? You got still with the Bucks, but they changed your uniforms. But you're high fiving Mike Allsop. So what happened here? Ah, I see. 1997. Okay. 21 touchdown passes to 11 interceptions, a playoff berth, the first for Tampa in 15 years, and a playoff victory over the Lions, and a Pro Bowl berth. Okay, so things are looking up.
okay. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I like that. I like what I see.
Right. Encore? Oh, see, you're wearing a sling. What happened here?
Oh,
Oh, okay. So it's still okay. 98, yeah, 8 wins, no postseason, but still put up good numbers. 21 touchdown passes. As for 1999, 11 interceptions and well, actually, same amount of touchdowns and interceptions, 11, but still won 7 games. But you injured your collarbone at Seattle in Week 11 and was replaced by Sean King, who took the Bucks to the conference championship game. So I guess come the offseason, it was we go with Trent or Sean, and they went with Sean. So Trent, you had to find a new home. Let's see where you landed. The Baltimore Ravens, and I see you got a Lombardi Trophy. What's up with that? Okay, all right. So yeah, not that's your numbers: 12 touchdowns, 11 picks. But hey, won 11 games as a starter. That's the most important stat. And about that Super Bowl, oh, what do we have here, Keenan?
wow. Let's see. A Super Bowl champion and at Raymond James Stadium, Tampa, Florida? Hmm.
Yeah, you- talk about talk about talk about coming full circle, right?
For sure. I was reading that. I was like 34-7 over this New York Giants Super Bowl. Um, and I forgot what Super Bowl that is. If you can reiterate.
That would be Super Bowl 35.
Okay, okay. I was It had to be in the 30s because that was in the 2000 season.
Mm,
But man, talk about a revival. 1 minute you're not playing so well, and the next you're reviving your career and doing well, and actually that's actually really impressive despite the numbers too. 12
mm,
12 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, folks, and only 11 games in 12 starts. Just to reiterate what you said, Amir, that is actually really impressive numbers.
yeah. Speaking of numbers, that Ravens team was led by its defense. Their offense was serviceable. And speaking of which, despite winning that Lombardi Trophy, Trent, your stay in Baltimore was a short one. You were not resigning in the offseason.
For some
Okay.
reason, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. The way he played, he got them that Super Bowl trophy, and all of a sudden he's not back with the team. I mean, there's got to be more to the story, right, Amir?
Yeah, if you ever watch the some extended like NFL's version of Super Bowl 35, Trent made some throws that had Brian Billick pulling his hair out, and well, after that, his writing was on the wall, and that's why Trent was not wearing purple come to 2001 season. But as a result, he landed in Seattle, and I recognize these two guys here. What happened here, Trent? Okay. Okay. So you signed with Seattle in 2001, played there for 4 seasons, where you backed up Mr. Hasselbeck, who's back to see the camera. Started 12 games for them, and yeah, kind of put up some numbers that he did in Tampa and Baltimore. More interceptions and touchdowns, and passed for 2,560 yards. But then again, you spend most of your time backing out Mr. Hasselbeck. All right. And I see you change uniforms again. So you wearing Browns colors in one picture and 49 colors in the next. So what happened here? Okay. Mm, mm, uh, yeah. I don't see a sword bucket. Couldn't quite recapture that magic in Baltimore, Trent. Your thoughts,
So,
Keenan?
yeah, so definitely not the numbers. Let's see, 11 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Oh,
Excuse me.
geez.
Sorry.
So, definitely not the Swan. Definitely not the season that you were looking for prior to that, or going back to that Super Bowl victory that you had. But um, so yeah,
Yeah, and his lot and basically after he left Baltimore, he won the total of 31 games in his final 6 seasons in the NFL. And as you can tell by his numbers, I mean, very similar to Jim Harbaugh's. I mean, and very
yeah,
similar career.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Interesting that Jim Harbaugh would end up coaching the 49ers a few years after Trent left and then led them to a Super Bowl where they lost to Baltimore. As for Mr. Dilfer, get this. He ended up joining ESPN and would cover the draft alongside Mel Kiper. Talk about another things coming full circle.
Wow, I did not I did not know that whatsoever. So that's really interesting.
Oh yeah. All right, Trent. Yeah. Basic same trajectory as Mr. Harbaugh. So how'd you fare, Heath? You don't look too all of a sudden it's bothering you here in this picture.
Yeah, it looks like he's holding his hand against his helmet, and looking down a bit. Has a grin on his face, and it's not a happy one.
When you win one game as a rookie, yeah, there's not much smile, but 10 touchdowns, 12 picks, 1,658 yards. I mean, not bad. I mean, rookie season, not gonna, not gonna be a world beater as a rookie in most cases. But then again, it's sophomore season. You're supposed to improve, right? Okay, you don't have your helmet on. You have the uniform on, but I see Norv Turner. He sounds familiar talking to this guy wearing number 12. So what's going on here? Eh, Okay, so he won 3 games. That's an improvement, but you can't. Man, you're throwing interceptions. It's 7 interceptions, 3 touchdown passes. That's not right. Going in the wrong direction here, Heath.
Yeah, so definitely not looking good for him. Just not wearing that helmet, and I mean, from the looks of it, it just doesn't look like it's gonna last long for him.
Well, you're right about that because the guy you see wearing number 12, Gus Farrat, well, he was drafted the same year as Heath in the 7th round by Washington, and dude, he struggles. He took over as starting quarterback and won over the crowd. And by 1996, he was relegated to like third string and only took 1 snap and got booed. And so, yeah, after 3 years in Washington, they said, we're going to go with Gus. Or better yet, Gus we trust. Heath, you're out. By the way, by your 3rd season, you're supposed to be a premier offensive weapon. Oh, wait, it's by your 3rd or 4th season. All right. So let's, all right, all right. Now, so, hey, maybe a change of scenery is what you need, Heath. All right, so where you land? All right, so you landed with the Saints, but you look confused here. And okay, I can see why. You know how to win games, Heath. You can improve your win total, but you can't stop throwing interceptions. 14 interceptions to 2 touchdown passes and 9 starts. That's not offensive. That's not a premier offensive weapon right there, Keenan.
No, no, definitely not. Definitely not. Oh, that's definitely going in the wrong direction. I mean, it's got to be the other way around, right? You know?
Yeah, unfortunately, that was. I can see you injure your foot in New Orleans, and that was basically it. Because you the injury basically meant you end your time in the Bayou, and then you tried to catch on with the Raiders, but didn't make their final roster. And by 2000, you were out of the NFL. And yeah, look at his final numbers. Ugh, these are, yeah, these are ugly. But there is it's not all. But I heard you had a run in politics, Heath, and you served in the House of Representatives for North Carolina from '07 to 2013. What about
Oh,
that?
wow. That's a fact that I barely didn't even know at all, and especially when we're both from the North Carolina area as well. So
Yep, and he's from Bryson City, North Carolina, which is not far from the Tennessee border.
no, no, that is definitely closer to the Tennessee border. So if you're listening out there, folks, it's not that far indeed. So well, when it comes to all of this, what's the conclusion to the story?
Well, I mean, it's when it comes to the draft, it's hit or miss. Like Marshall Falk, I mean, Mel disagreed with the pick, but then look what happened. Amazing rookie season en route to a Hall of Fame career. Jim Harbaugh was not expected to do much. Ben Nelson caught lightning ball in '95, and and led the Colts to within the game of the Super Bowl. And Heath Schuler, Trent Dilfer. I mean, Trent, like I said, caught lightning ball with the Bucks. Won a Super Bowl in Baltimore, then went to journeyman status afterwards, just like Jim. Where Heath, yeah, didn't live up to expectations at all. And Bill Tobin, like I said, had some success, proved Mel right and wrong at the same time. And of course, speaking of Mel, he's still at ESPN. He's going to get it right, and he's going to get it wrong. So it's like long story short, not always right, not always wrong, and in between.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Like not everyone knows like who are we, who are these GMs are gonna get, who these players are gonna go to. So in the end, we you know Fans might not like it. Some fans do, and that's the way it goes. Sometimes it's all in all a business standpoint, but yeah, but very interesting story indeed.
Yep. And getting back to Mel, when this is when he now we're going back to like we're at the Marquee. Might remember when he said after he was while he was ripping Bill Tobin that most weren't competing for a Super Bowl like other clubs in the National Football League. Well, one of those clubs that was competing for a Super Bowl, or excuse me, coming off a Super Bowl win, was the Dallas Cowboys. It
Ooh,
ring a bell?
yeah, yeah,
The reason why I bring up the Cowboys and Super Bowl because it's going to play a factor in our next story, right? Which was commenced right after the break.
you're listening to Double Header.
All right, we're back.
And yeah, this leads us to our next story. Like you said, Amir, 2018 Cowboys with Stephen A. Smith, Michael Irvin. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So
Do it.
the lead, the year was 2018, and like any other season in the NFL, you had first take. Now, Amir, when it comes to that title, first take, what comes to mind when you hear that uh, title?
I think of a guy by the name of Stephen A. Smith, guy right there, and
Right.
then also Skip Bayless and Max Kellerman, but a lot of back and forth and arguing and calling out certain teams, say a certain team in Texas.
Hmm. Yeah. 2018. Stephen A. Matt Kellerman,
Hmm,
Skip Bayless. Uh, yeah, those seem to match to me. So, but when it comes to the story, so you're probably wondering, folks, who is Stephen A. Smith? Well, it was a day like any other day. Stephen A. Smith was working at, you know, First Take back in 2012, and still working on the show today. Okay, seems pretty standard to me. So Smith is really recognizable journalist, analyst with the sports industry, and his knowledge with outrageous opinions within the National Basketball Association and the National Football League, which started with ESPN in 2003. So when it comes to Stephen A. Smith, do you have any, moments or takes about this guy right here?
Well, when it comes, he will speak his mind, and especially when it comes to the New York Knicks and the Dallas Cowboys. He also he's from New York, covers the New York's teams, but also the big Knicks fan. So whenever they lose, he's not afraid to like you know he's not afraid to tell it to a national audience. And as for the Cowboys, he knows how to ruffle he knows how to ruffle those fans' feathers and get just to give them they're in the big market.
Yeah, definitely. With the Dallas Cowboys and New York Knicks, with him, he's from the New York area. He loves his New York Knicks and wants them to do well. And when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, there is one other guy, with this story that plays a big role. Like I said in the title beforehand, Michael Irving, excuse me. So Michael Irvin was a former football player who played in the NFL for 12 seasons, all with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Michael collected three Super Bowl trophies in the 1990s, and that is when the Dallas Cowboys were on it. They won games after game after game after game. So you're probably wondering, Keenan, it's the 1990s. That was a long time ago. You and you're saying you're right. Michael Irvin is a f- f- since his NFL retirement, uh, is a sports analyst for many other sports networks like First Take, Undisputed, and with Richard Truman and Skip Bayless. So Amir, you brought up Skip Bayless. What are your thoughts on First Take with Skip Bayless?
Well, from what I've seen, when it comes to the Cowboys, Skip, he's going to defend them to the end of the earth. He also used to cover the Cowboys back in the day. And of course, Cowboys always are in the headlines 24/7 because they're America's part because they're America's team. So whenever the Cowboys make are including a segment on Spurs Take, I know Skip's going to be saying, "My Cowboys fill in the blank."
Right. Yep. So if you ever get a chance to watch First Take Votes with Skip Bayless, he is definitely a entertainer, for to say the least. Well, back to the story at hand. It was November 5th, 2018. It was a it was an episode of First Take, ESPN, 10 a.m. start time, and boy oh boy, you got the NFL season going along, and everybody knows that the NFL season starts in August and September and October and et cetera, et cetera. So you're probably thinking, what was this feud? What was the feud all about? What was their outcome of this cake? Well, we're gonna dive deep and look at each side of the coin. So first we have none other than the man himself, Michael Irvin side. So it was November 5th, 2018. It took place in Texas Live in Arlington, Texas. Michael Irvin was a special guest on First Take with Stephen A. and Max Kellerman. So Max Kellerman brings up an interesting point. When they're just asking some questions about the Dallas Cowboys' future and how everything's going to turn out for them. They have a young roster. They have a young and upcoming quarterback at the time, and Dak Prescott, which we'll get to in a second. So, so Max comes up with this interesting question: are they going to write history, or will he be history? And you're probably thinking, hmm, that's
A
interesting.
statement.
Yeah. So, with with that, Michael Irvin has some things to say, and I quote, "That is a great question, Max. Can we get an answer without without the move we have just made, or we can really get an answer on Dak, getting the weapons around him?" And I think that's why Amari Cooper plays a big role in this. It is a big deal, and we needed to get that we need to get Amari Cooper. So, and he goes on to say, and I quote, this, when doing research on this, I can't believe he still said this. They will regain proper spot among teams. And I repeat, if people misheard that, they will regain their proper spot among teams. Now, Amir, when a person says that, what do you think they're trying to say?
That their team's going to be amongst the elite teams in the NFL. That includes winning multiple Super Bowls, which the Cowboys at this point, you brought up the 90s. Well, they hadn't won a Super Bowl in at that point in 2 decades, and they hadn't made it to the conference championship game. And while they're always a team with high expectations, makes all the headlines. Yeah, when Chris comes to sub, no results, very little results.
Right, right. And as of this recording of First Take, Prescott, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, who was a 25 and 14, excuse me, 25 and 14 and three season, with Dak being drafted in 2016. Now you're thinking, hmm, Stephen A. Smith, very vocal opinion analyst. So without further ado, oh boy, you're gonna be loving this, folks. You're gonna be loving this. He explains concerns about the Dallas performed over the last few seasons when it is a dawn of a new day. And I quote, "It is true. It is true when you're a member of the Cowboys and Jimmy Johnson came on board to coach this team. It is true. Jimmy Johnson, when you were up there, and he is referring to Michael Irvin when he says this to him. That is a dawn of a new day, and and can't read that. I'm sorry, folks. Um, so it's a dawn of a new day, and we need to do this, this, and this. And he goes on to say, folks, and boy, oh boy, y'all ain't nothing, and y'all have won two playoff games in 25 years. Y'all ain't nothing. So, what are your initial thoughts when you see that, Amir?
Well, when he brought up Jimmy Johnson, who not NASCAR driver, but the guy who works at Fox, once upon a time he coached in the NFL and also coached in the college ranks at Miami. And, and amongst those players happened to be Michael Irvin. That being said, when he got there in 1989, Cowboys were in rebuilding mode, and players were most of them were just there for a paycheck, and so in other words, they were looking to win a championship. You know, if you weren't dedicated, you were shown the door. And obviously, you can tell Michael Irvin was one of those players who was dedicated and sold in, and even told Jimmy, "Hey, these guys, they won't, they're not going to make it. They're not going to be here a few years down the road." Now, on that note, of course, that Cowboys team won 90. Or was a dynasty in the 90s, but by the time, unfortunately, by this point, they were, like I said, all talk, but little known results. Like you said earlier, Dak won 25 games, but his first playoff game, which was 2 seasons prior, he was one and done, which was the story of the Cowboys at that point. And what further proves Stephen A's point, y'all ain't nothing, because where's the postseason success? It hasn't been there in the last 25
Yeah,
years.
yeah, absolutely. And going back to that quote for folks, it's the dawn of a new day is infinite, folks. I was trying to read that and I couldn't get that, but now I was able to make out the word. So it's infinite. So what he means by that is definitely we need to get some stuff, you know, situated, figured out, and we need to get rid of this, this, and this. You probably have some work to do when it comes to rebuilding the team or figuring out the ways how to get better. So stuff like that.
And getting back to your point about Don New Age, I mean, like I said, they just picked up Amari Cooper from a trade, and they had Zeke, they had Dak, they had a talented, an all-star offensive line, and a very talented defense. It just so like the Don and New Age part made sense, but unfortunately, the Cowboys at this point they had won 3 games out of 7, and their season was on like the year. You better start winning now or look to next year, especially their coach Jason Garrett.
Right, and we're talking about 2018 season now, folks. And going into this game, which we'll get to in a few minutes here, you know, both of these teams going in, they were both 3-4, if I'm not mistaken. So they were pretty hungry, you know, into it. You know, they were looking for a bounce back after a bumpy start. But after after the show, you know, concluded, Stephen A. was not done. He was definitely not done with this. And there was a picture of Michael Irvin Irvin on set, um, sweating, sweating, his face sweat, head sweat, whatever you want to call it. And Stephen A. goes on Twitter slash X, um, or Twitter at the time rather, says, "Here's what happens when you go after me, smiley face or smiley face." Now, Amir, when you see this tweet, you probably have never seen this, or you probably have. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, the tweet doesn't tell the whole story in terms of what Michael Irvin, because the reason why he was sweating, he was letting it all out. Like he was saying, like, you're in our city, calling out saying we ain't nothing live. We're not gonna stand, we're not gonna take that standing down. We're gonna, you know, excuse me. Just again, they were live at Texas Live, and they were surrounded by Cowboy fans, but some small pocket of Titan fans. So, you know, when he went said Don the New Age and they're amongst the kings, you could just see the passion and the energy in his voice. He was like getting really animated, and even got out of the seat and even like was like saying, "Hey fans, let's get into it." You know, but then with sports with Stephen A, here's what happens: like you go after me, it's like, well, you're gonna come after me like that? Well, I got something to say. And speaking of which, Stephen A, it was one of the few times where I've watched the first take episode where he was being getting beat at his own game, especially when it comes to the Cowboys. And here you
Yeah,
are talking about an
yeah,
ex-Cowboys player.
yeah. It was definitely a battle between those two guys, and Stephen A. was having a heck of a time, on the episode. If you have the time, go look it up on YouTube, folks. It's definitely a must watch, and I'll put it in the link down below in the description down below if you want to check that out. Actually, so yeah, it's definitely a must watch if you want to go deeper into it. But yeah. So without further ado, you're probably thinking, well, what happened in the game? That before, excuse me, after all this. So with the game, let's see. Okay, 18C Stadium. That's where it took place, and it holds a capacity of 90,466 seats. And boy, oh boy, that's a lot of seats. That is a lot of seats. And which opened in May 26th, 2009, which I did not really not know about per se. So you're probably thinking, what's the matchup? Well, the matchup is between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tennessee Titans. It was week 9 of the NFL regular season play, and the stats go like this: Dak Prescott threw 21 for 31, 243 yards, one touchdown, and one interception. And that interception came from football safety. Forgive me if I butcher your name, sir. Kevin Byard for the Titans. Byard was the league in interceptions the previous year in 2017. Now with Marcus Mariota and the Titans, 21 for 29 for 240 yards, one two touchdowns and zero interceptions. The two touchdowns came from Marcus Mariota himself, probably like a QB play, and running back Derrick Henry. Now, Amir, do you remember, watching the highlights of this game or even checking out this game on television or heck even in person? So what do you remember from this game and what can you take from, what I present so far?
Well, this is the first Cowboys Monday night game with Jason Witten calling it after he joined ESPN in the spring. So that this game was going to get a lot of attention. In addition to what its first sake, part of the reason why first sake did a live show in Dallas, or excuse me, Arlington. And as for the game itself, I remember they scored on their first possession, the Cowboys. Then they got the ball back and were in position to score again. and that's when Dak threw that interception to Kevin Byard, who then went to the Dallas Star and celebrated on it. And honestly, from there, that just shifted the momentum to dang it, to the Titans, who dominated the rest of the way. Sorry, I said it
Yeah,
there.
definitely. When I was looking at the highlights of the highlight of Kevin Byard doing that interception, and it happened in the red zone, and it was definitely what Dallas was not looking for.
Mhm.
So going on to the next fact, it was also of the debut of wide receiver Amari Cooper, who was who was involved in a trade from the Las Vegas Raiders, formerly known as the Oakland Raiders at the time, and the game that he had was only 58 yards and one touchdown. Definitely not uh the numbers that Amari Cooper was looking for. So
Yeah,
in the
and kind of
final
just summed up
score,
the Cowboys. Sorry.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the whole night, I can just when that game went by, I can just picture Steve Naismith saying, "What did I tell you?"
Yeah, definitely. He was saying he was saying something like, "Oh, how about them Cowboys?" like he does today, or like, "What did I tell you? I got you. I got you." So stuff like
Mhm.
that. And if you haven't checked that out, folks, go on Twitter, go on Instagram, look up Stephen A. Smith. Heck, go on YouTube, look up Stephen A. Smith Cowboys reaction. There's gotta be like a compilation somewhere, of him doing that because there's so many ways, so many tricks up his sleeve. So, but
Mhm.
anyway, the final score turned out to be a 28-14 Tennessee victory. So definitely not the closest game in the world. Definitely not the most entertaining game in the world either. But in the end, looking forward, um, so as of 2024, it will be the 29th season for the Cowboys, looking for that Vince Lombardi Trophy. And as for Amari Cooper, who he currently plays for the Cleveland Browns, that is located in Ohio. And as for their star running back, Ezekiel Elliott, who was drafted in 2016 as well, is no longer with the team. And with those three players, with Dak, Ezekiel, and Amari, they have no longer in plans when it comes about future. So, in conclusion, it is definitely a interesting, feud topic with first take with Michael Irvin and Stephen A. Smith. So, in the end, who do you think won that feud when it came to the episode, Amir?
Oh, Stephen A. hands down because Cowboys lost that game. We were able to turn around the second half of the season, but fortunately got beat by the Rams in the divisional playoff round, and that's as far as they come since 1995. That,
Yeah, so definitely
that's
no
it.
NFC championship appearances yet, no third round appearances, no Super Bowl appearances for those Cowboys. So they definitely got some work to do going forward, and so some definitely some strong words, but for from those two, that's for sure.
Yeah, and getting back to Michael Irvin, well, you're talking about another full circle story. At the time, he's with NFL Network, and now he's back at ESPN because he used to work there from like the early 2000s until something happened there, and then joined NFL Network, and now he's back with the mothership on First Take.
Yeah, so it definitely ties together with your story, Amir. That's for sure. Well, with that being said, folks, unfortunately we are out of time today. If you want to go ahead and check us out, um, going forward, I suggest you hit that like button and subscribe for more. And Amir, before we sign off, where can people find more information about your stories, your topics, and more information about you? Because I know you do a few more things with the NFL as a writer per se, in your own time. So where can people find you?
Well, folks, you want a more in-depth story about my, or read more about my story? I have a Wix article which will be in the description box, so check that out. Along with other works on Wix. That being said, I'm glad you enjoyed this first episode of Doubleheader. Looking back, hear back from you guys next week and beyond.
Yes, and if you ever want to find more information about me, I have my own Wix website as well. Feel free to check that out. I'll put that in the description box below as well with Amir stuff. So, like you said, Amir, it's been great having you on, and great, um, and it's great to have to do this episode today. And like you said, we'll see you guys next time. And yeah. So, without further ado, this has been Double Header with Amir and Keenan, and we'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye, folks.
Catch y'all on the flip side.